An outlook into the new week amidst expected global trends. I'm now being joined in the studio by Ayodele Ebo, Head of Research at Afrinvest Securities. Thank you so much, Ayodele, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Now, obviously, it's a big week for the markets, not just here in Nigeria, outside of our shows. But let's just start with your expectations for trade this week. We saw a 0.84% downside for the markets, coming from a gain of 0.4% the previous week. Your expectations?
Yeah, if you look at what has been happening in the market, it has been a wait and see. Investors are trying to be cautious and not to further get exposed based on the downtrend in the market as a result of the liquidity squeeze that operates in the equities market. Based on our view, we expect the market to shed some little weight of about 0.4% further as there are a lot of speculation based on the FOMC meeting, the inflation rates that we expect, and also the MPC meeting that's coming up next week. To
what extent are we going to see an effect on the market? Because I know that foreign, perhaps maybe not too much on the local side, but for the foreign investors who play in the Nigerian equities markets, they definitely will be keeping their eyes on that outcome tomorrow. So what way, if it goes either way, what effect could that have on the market?
Yeah, you will agree with me. Now, the issue at hand now is not whether the tapering, the bond stimulus will be removed, stopped, or reduced. The issue now is by how much will it be reduced. Based on speculation and analyst projection, they're expecting that the bond stimulus will be reduced by 10 million. And we've looked at most foreign portfolio investors have been proactive enough. We look at the pressure on the naira as a result of the capital flight that has been capital flight on based on the investments they are selling. We don't see much impact in the market if it's not above that $10 billion. So we expect that the market will just continue to trade at the level it's trading now. Looking at the fourth quarter, historically it has always been very weak, except for last year. The foreign portfolio investors came in. So we still expect the market to still trade flat towards the end.
Okay, let's talk about focus for our markets next week. The MPC, the Monetary Policy Committee meeting, of course, MPR still at 12%. What are your expectations, and what do you think market expectations are also, and how this could impact trading going forward?
Yeah, we're looking at the CBN policy. They've been following the contractionary measure. We feel MPR will still remain at 12 based on the psychological effects. They won't want to touch the MPR. But looking at the pressure on the naira for the past few weeks, they may try to either look at the net open position or further look at try to isolate the source of the pressure on the naira. So they may come up with a policy that can help tame or stem the pressure on the naira.
So what instruments do you think they could tamper with? Looking at the CRR, we're going to see further.
The net open position, which is currently at 1%, they may we'll see maybe they may likely bring it down by 25 basis points, or they may try to look at the CRR and further bring it from the 12%. The last time it was on the public fund, they tried to isolate that, increasing it by 38% to 50%. So we feel they may just look at the source of that fund that is really causing that pressure on the naira.
So do you think that they might set perhaps a new target band for the naira? We're seeing the naira unable anymore to stay at around 159 naira. We're seeing the naira at 160. We've even seen it go as high as 165. But what do you think the CBN? What decision do you think the CBN could take perhaps on a new band? Yeah,
based on a report that we wrote last week on the sliding naira, we already make a projection that the CBN might have to change the band so that it reduces the accretion of our reserves, so that you don't have to defend the naira by all means. We are looking at about 159 to 160 from the 155 band, so that this will really reduce the pressure on the.
Now, and it seems CBN. That this is creating discord because you've listed 2, 3, 4 options that that seem to be available to CBN, and that, in a sense, creates some kind of uncertainty. Would that make the market nervous because we don't know exactly what the CBN? Obviously, the market wasn't expecting that 50% CRR on public sector funds. Nobody knows what the CBN is going to do next. So that seems to have created some uncertainty. Do you think in terms of how much of an impact that could have on the market? So what's your take on that?
Yeah, the investors will continue to trade cautiously. They will continue to wait on the sideline to see the next move of the CBN. So we don't, just like based on our projection for this week, we expect it to just shed some weight, about 4%, 0.4%. So we don't see an overreaction. Investors will still continue to wait and to see what next line of action is.
Okay, let's leave that for now. Let's go back to the equities markets. Let's take a deeper look at stocks. Just very caught my eye of up 48% week on week, 46% week on week last week, and it's up 800% for the month. What is the attraction for this stock?
Yeah, since the news that the state government will be supporting, will be inflowing about 700 million into the company. And I think people are trying to take position, or maybe some some investors are trying to just take over, buy the shares in tranches to take over the company, seeing the opportunities in the brewery sector. So I think that the bandwagon effect too may also be a factor that may be responsible why people like speculating a lot. So maybe that is one of the reasons why it has continued in its upward swing.
But in terms of valuations, fundamentals for this company, where is it?
Well, in our view, looking at it fundamentally, we don't really see a value. We expect that if the inflow comes in first, you have to see some of the capacity, what they expect to do, and we'll see whether it trickles down to the bottom line before we can be able to advise our investors to take position in it. Aside that, we advise investors to be a little bit cautious and not follow the bandwagon effect. Talking
about bandwagon effect, could we see that same bandwagon effect for the other stocks in this same sector?
No, you look at this, most of the stocks that the bandwagon effect are really affected is some of those stocks, what we call under the radar stocks, that people don't really look at. You look at Vono last week, look at Portland Paints. There are stocks that it's just based on maybe information that some people have, or based on strategic investment that people are just taking positions to drive that particular stock. But we have other sectors that are of interest. Looking at the banking sector with an average price multiple of about 7 and price to book of about 1. This presents very great opportunities for investors. But however, we would expect that they should still trade cautiously.
Because of the MPC meeting next week?
Yeah, until some of these decisions, there are a lot of speculations in the air now. So until some of these decisions are reached and you can be able to, that will help shape and guide investment decisions. Okay,
but what stocks still from the banking sector can investors stake their money on today, even for this week ahead of the meeting?
Yeah,
or regardless of the meeting?
Yeah, thank you. We will still look at the First Bank still remain our top picks. In the first year, Zenith, one, based on the liquidity and the cost of funds have been very low. This will give them very competitive advantage over other sectors. It's still based on our valuation. The upside is about 40% upside, present about 40% upside for investors. And going down to the tier 2, Diamond Bank, it remains on our top picks. So we expect investors should take position in that cautiously.
What about consumer goods stocks? I know that's usually a favorite for investors, and perhaps from the industrial sector too.
Yeah, that's another interesting sector we've been looking into. Looking at the demographic dividend in Nigeria based on the active population, you see that this population, looking at the trend in the last quarter, they always, based on their sales, they have always been very active in the last quarter. And looking at the reforms in the power sector is expected on the long term, is expected to trickle down based on the chunk of the cost of the electricity, which constitutes a larger part of their cost. We expect that some of this sector is a sector to watch out for. Our top picks in that sector includes Dangote Sugar, Honeywell Flour Mill, and some other stocks like Nigerian Brewery too, and Cadbury are also good stocks in our.
Now, looking at the year-to-date return for the OSHA index, we are presently at 28.6%. That's a far cry from where we were about 3-4 weeks ago. And now we're looking at the OSHA index just at the edge of hitting 35, falling into the 35,000 point trade band, as it were. But what do you see? Do you see this sliding significantly lower in the coming weeks?
Yeah, we see, based on our projection, is that the year-to-date may close at 27% from The 42% is at 10th of June, since the liquidity squeeze by the CBN and also the FOA, the Fed speculation. We expect it to close about 27 towards the end of the year.
We could actually go as low as that.
Yeah. 27. No, what I mean, that's year to date to close at 27, not the index.
Not the all-share index itself.
Yeah.
So what could be a good resistance point for the all-share index? What, 35,000?
Yeah, it's going to go below. Currently, it's based on technically the relative strength index is reading is about at 32, which presents that is getting to the oversold region. So we feel by the time it breaks this region, people would see much opportunity and they will come in. So it may come up, but we feel it should close around this range. All
right, thank you so much, Ayodeji. We're going to have to leave it there. Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Ayodeji Ebo, Head Research at Afrinvest Securities, talking us through a market trading for this weekend of